Aging is something that happens so gradually, so subtly, that most people don't even notice it at first. One day you're full of energy, making plans without a second thought, and bouncing back from a sleepless night like it was nothing. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, reality sets in. Maybe it's the first time you wake up with a mysterious ache in your back that wasn't there the night before. Maybe it's when you hear a new song on the radio and for the first time think, this just sounds like noise. Or perhaps it's when a young cashier calls you sir or ma'am, and it hits you, you're no longer the youngest person in the room. For many, the realization that they're aging doesn't come with a dramatic event. It's not about reaching a milestone birthday or noticing gray hairs. It's in the small, almost imperceptible moments that make you pause and think, when did I become older? It sneaks up on you in ways that aren't always obvious. You might catch yourself saying, back in my day, or struggling to remember the name of a song you once knew by heart. You might realize that more often than not, you'd rather stay in than go out, not because you have to, but because the idea of being in bed by 10 p.m. just sounds better. One of the hardest things about getting older isn't just the physical changes, it's the way your perception of yourself shifts. You don't feel any different on the inside. In your mind, you're still that same person you were in your 20s or 30s, but then you catch your reflection and notice the fine lines that weren't there before, the way your skin doesn't look quite as firm, or the way your body moves just a little slower than it used to. It's a strange experience, almost as if time played a trick on you. There's also the realization that the world around you is changing, often faster than you can keep up with. Technology advances at an overwhelming pace, social norms shift, and suddenly, the way you've always done things starts to feel outdated. You find yourself struggling with new phone updates, confused about the latest internet trends, or wondering why customer service barely exists anymore. It's not that you're incapable of learning new things. It's just that the world seems to be moving at a speed that no longer feels natural. But perhaps the most jarring realization comes when you start to notice that people treat you differently. Younger generations look at you as someone with experience, but sometimes they also dismiss you as out of touch. You go from being the one others depend on to the one who might need a little help, and that's not always easy to accept. The hardest part of getting older isn't just about physical aging. It's about confronting the undeniable truth that time moves forward whether you're ready for it or not. And as much as you might try to ignore it, there will always be moments that remind you you're not as young as you used to be. But the question is, does that have to be a bad thing? Or is there another way to look at aging that makes it feel less like an ending and more like a transition into something new? That's what we'll explore next. Aging isn't something that happens all at once. It doesn't announce itself with a grand entrance. Instead, it arrives in small, quiet ways, subtle changes that seem insignificant at first but slowly begin to shape everyday life. For many, the first signs are easy to dismiss. A little stiffness in the morning, a knee that aches after standing too long, or the sudden realization that reading small print requires stretching the arm just a bit farther. These are the moments that signal a shift, a reminder that the body doesn't quite function the way it used to. One of the biggest challenges of getting older is learning to navigate a body that no longer feels as reliable. The energy that once seemed limitless begins to fade, making tasks that were once effortless feel exhausting. Climbing stairs feels like a small workout, and recovering from a simple cold takes twice as long. It's not just about getting tired more easily. It's about feeling like the body is no longer cooperating the way it once did. Muscles that once felt strong begin to weaken, and simple activities like bending down to tie a shoe suddenly require more effort. Then there's the unpredictability of pain. It doesn't always come from an injury or overexertion. Sometimes it appears out of nowhere, a dull ache in the back, a sharp pain in the joints, or stiffness in the hands. One night of sleeping in the wrong position can mean days of discomfort. Doctors call it wear and tear, but to the person experiencing it, it feels more like betrayal. The body that once healed quickly now holds on to every strain, reminding you of its limitations. Another aspect of aging that no one truly prepares for is how it changes the senses. Eyesight begins to blur, making once crisp letters on a page look fuzzy. Reading glasses become a necessity rather than an occasional inconvenience. Hearing starts to fade, and conversations in crowded places become harder to follow. Tastes change, sometimes dulling, making food less flavorful than before. Even balance becomes an issue, turning a simple misstep into a potential fall. These changes creep in slowly, but their impact is undeniable. Weight becomes harder to manage, even with the same diet and exercise routine. The metabolism that once burned calories effortlessly slows down, requiring more effort just to maintain the same level of health. Sleep patterns change as well. Falling asleep might become easier, but staying asleep often feels like a challenge. Waking up in the middle of the night, unable to fall back asleep, becomes frustratingly common. Yet perhaps the hardest part of these physical changes isn't just the discomfort or inconvenience, it's the loss of control. The body, once dependable and strong, now requires extra care, patience, and sometimes acceptance. It's not easy to come to terms with the fact that aging is an ongoing process, one that requires constant adaptation. But while the body may slow down, it doesn't mean life has to. There are ways to adjust, to work with these changes rather than against them. And even though the physical side of aging can be challenging, the emotional and social struggles can be just as difficult, if not more. That's what we'll explore next. Aging is not just a physical process. It is deeply emotional. While the body slows down, the heart and mind must also adjust to a new reality, one that often includes change, loss, and an evolving sense of identity. The hardest part of getting older is not just feeling different physically, but also coming to terms with the emotional weight that aging brings. One of the most difficult emotional challenges of aging is the feeling of invisibility. As people get older, they often notice that they are no longer seen or heard the way they once were. In conversations, younger people may talk over them or assume they have nothing to add. In public spaces, they might feel ignored, as if they have faded into the background of society. This can be frustrating, especially for those who were once at the center of action, working, raising families, and making decisions that shaped their communities. There's also the emotional struggle of losing independence. The tasks that once seemed effortless, driving at night, carrying groceries, or even remembering small details, suddenly require more thought and caution. For many, there comes a point when they must rely on others, whether it is family members, caregivers, or friends. This shift can feel like a loss of freedom, and with it comes a deep sense of frustration. No one likes to feel like a burden, and yet, aging often means accepting help, even when it is difficult to do so. Perhaps the greatest emotional challenge of aging is dealing with loss. Friends and loved ones begin to pass away, and each loss is a reminder of time's relentless movement. The people who shared memories, who were part of the journey, slowly disappear, leaving an emptiness that is hard to fill. The loneliness that comes with these losses can be overwhelming. Even with family nearby, there is a different kind of isolation that comes from knowing that so many people from the past are no longer there. Beyond personal loss, there is also a sense of nostalgia, a longing for the past. The world has changed in ways that can feel unfamiliar, and for many it is difficult to adjust. The values, traditions, and ways of life that once defined a generation are now considered outdated. Social connections, which once came naturally through work, community, or shared experiences, become harder to maintain. The pace of life has sped up, and it often feels as though older generations are being left behind. But despite these emotional struggles, aging is not just about loss. It is also about perspective. While it is true that getting older brings challenges, it also brings wisdom, resilience, and a deeper appreciation for life's small moments. The ability to find joy in simple things, a conversation with an old friend, the laughter of grandchildren, the beauty of a quiet morning, becomes even more meaningful. The key to emotional well-being in later years is not to fight the changes, but to embrace them, finding new ways to stay connected, engaged, and hopeful. While aging brings emotional challenges, it also offers opportunities for personal growth. The next section will explore how to navigate these changes and find purpose and fulfillment in the later years of life. One of the greatest challenges of aging is not just dealing with physical and emotional changes, but also finding a renewed sense of purpose. After decades of responsibilities, raising children, building careers, and managing the demands of daily life, many older adults find themselves asking, "What now?" The routines that once provided structure and meaning begin to shift, and without a clear direction, it can be easy to feel lost. However, while aging brings changes, it also brings opportunities to redefine purpose, explore new passions, and embrace life in a different way. For many, purpose was once tied to their roles as workers, parents, or caregivers. But as children grow up and careers come to an end, there is a sudden realization that these roles no longer define everyday life. This transition can be unsettling, leading to feelings of uncertainty or even a loss of identity. Without clear responsibilities, it is common to feel as though time is slipping away without meaning. However, the key to fulfillment in later years is understanding that purpose is not limited to a career or family role. It can evolve and take new forms. One of the most rewarding ways to rediscover purpose is through connection and contribution. Many older adults find immense joy in mentoring younger generations, whether it is sharing life lessons, teaching valuable skills, or simply offering guidance based on years of experience. Volunteering also provides a powerful sense of fulfillment. Whether it is helping at a local charity, assisting in community projects, or simply being there for those in need, acts of service create meaning and strengthen a sense of belonging. Knowing that one's wisdom and efforts are still valuable can be incredibly uplifting. Lifelong learning is another way to stay engaged and find purpose. With more free time, older adults have the opportunity to explore interests they may have set aside in earlier years. Taking up a new hobby, enrolling in an online class, learning a musical instrument, or even diving into creative pursuits like painting or writing can be incredibly fulfilling. These activities not only keep the mind active, but also provide a sense of excitement and discovery. Staying socially connected is also essential. While aging can sometimes bring isolation, making an effort to maintain relationships can prevent loneliness and bring a deep sense of joy. Joining clubs, attending community events, or simply setting regular meetups with friends and family can make a significant difference. Conversations, shared laughter, and meaningful connections remind people that they are still part of something larger than themselves. Most importantly, finding purpose in later years requires a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on what has been lost, embracing what is still possible allows for growth and fulfillment. Aging does not mean fading into the background. It means stepping into a new chapter, one that can be rich with meaning, adventure, and deep personal satisfaction. In the next section, we will explore practical ways to maintain happiness and well-being, ensuring that the later years are not just about getting older, but about living fully. One of the most unexpected challenges of aging is the realization that the world is changing faster than ever. It is not just personal changes that make growing older difficult, but also the sense that everything around you is shifting in ways that feel unfamiliar. The things that once felt comfortable and predictable, social norms, technology, and even the way people communicate, now seem distant, as if belonging to a different era. While every generation experiences change, there is something uniquely unsettling about feeling like the world is moving forward at a pace that no longer feels natural. Technology is one of the biggest areas where this shift becomes obvious. In just a few decades, life has transformed in ways that older generations could never have imagined. There was a time when letters and phone calls were the primary means of communication, when families gathered around the television to watch the evening news, and when face-to-face conversations were the norm. Now, everything is instant, digital, and constantly evolving. Social media has replaced traditional forms of interaction. News is consumed in quick headlines on screens, and younger generations seem permanently attached to their devices. For many older adults, adapting to this new way of life feels overwhelming. Learning how to use smartphones, apps, and social platforms is not just a matter of convenience. It is often necessary to stay connected with family and friends. But while younger generations adapt quickly, those who grew up in a different time often feel left behind. Beyond technology, there is also a noticeable shift in values and social behavior. The way people interact has changed, and so have the expectations around relationships, work, and family life. There was a time when traditions were strong, when people stayed in the same job for decades, and when communities felt tightly connected. Now, things are more flexible, fast-moving, and sometimes impersonal. Younger generations prioritize independence, personal goals, and digital relationships over long-term commitments, leaving many older adults feeling disconnected. It is not that one way of life is better than the other, but rather that the contrast between past and present can be difficult to navigate. Even simple daily experiences serve as reminders of how much the world has changed. Customer service has been replaced by automated systems, stores are self-checkout instead of full of helpful employees, and everyday interactions feel rushed. The pace of life has accelerated, making it easy to feel like an outsider in a world that is always looking ahead rather than appreciating the present. Despite these changes, there is a way to find peace in the shifting landscape. The key is not to resist change, but to adapt at a comfortable pace. While it may not always be easy, embracing certain aspects of the modern world, whether through technology, new hobbies, or connecting with younger generations, can bring unexpected joy. It is also important to hold on to the things that still bring comfort, whether it is old traditions, meaningful relationships, or the wisdom gained over time. Aging comes with challenges, but it also brings perspective. While the world may feel different, and at times unfamiliar, it is still possible to carve out a space that feels like home. The next section will explore the hidden gifts of aging, the wisdom, clarity, and freedom that come with growing older. While aging brings undeniable challenges, it also offers something that cannot be rushed or faked: wisdom. Over the years, life experiences shape a deeper understanding of what truly matters. The struggles, joys, losses, and triumphs of a lifetime create a unique perspective that younger generations have yet to develop. The later years, often seen as a time of decline, can actually be a time of growth, self-discovery, and personal freedom. One of the greatest gifts of aging is the ability to see life with greater clarity. When younger, people often feel pressured by societal expectations, pursuing careers, accumulating wealth, maintaining appearances, and striving for external validation. However, with age comes the realization that many of these pressures are unnecessary. What once seemed urgent now feels less important. Instead of worrying about what others think, older adults often find themselves prioritizing what truly brings them joy. There is a shift from seeking approval to seeking authenticity, and that change is liberating. This wisdom also brings a sense of emotional stability. When young, emotions can feel overwhelming: heartbreaks, disappointments, failures, and anxieties about the future. But with time, people learn that most things pass. The ability to stay calm in the face of difficulties is one of the most valuable lessons aging provides. Problems that once seemed unbearable now appear as temporary challenges. There is an understanding that setbacks are part of life, and that survival through hardships builds resilience. This perspective allows older adults to approach life with a sense of peace, even when things do not go as planned. Another hidden gift of aging is the freedom to live on one's own terms. Many of life's earlier responsibilities, career, raising children, meeting expectations, begin to ease in later years. For the first time in decades, there is an opportunity to focus on personal passions, interests, and well-being. There is no longer a need to prove anything to anyone, and that sense of independence can be incredibly empowering. Whether it is traveling, learning new skills, deepening relationships, or simply enjoying a slower pace of life, older adults have the chance to embrace life in a way that was not possible before. Relationships also take on a new depth. As time passes, it becomes clear who truly matters. Superficial friendships fade, while meaningful connections become stronger. There is less desire for social climbing or maintaining unnecessary relationships, and instead, more appreciation for genuine companionship. Conversations become richer, moments with loved ones feel more precious, and there is a greater focus on the quality of time spent together rather than the quantity. Aging may bring physical limitations, but it also offers a deeper connection to what truly matters. The gift of wisdom, the clarity of what is important, and the freedom to live authentically are treasures that can only be gained through experience. The later years should not be seen as an ending, but as a new beginning, a time to embrace life with gratitude and purpose. In the next section, we will explore practical ways to make the most of aging, ensuring that these years are not just about getting older, but about living fully.